order on April 28th. Call the meeting to order April 28th. And we'll go down the agenda as we see it. Taking attendance, it's John, myself, and Jim, missing Harold, and
That's it. That's it.
that's it. And that's it. So quorum, we do have a quorum. Any adjustments to the agenda with no public? I would guess there is not. Review the minutes, which I already have. Review the minutes for the March 31st meeting. I wasn't able to make it, but Jim chaired it for me. We spoke on the phone. Everything looks fine. I do agree to accept the minutes as written. And I'd take a second on that.
I'll second it.
I have a second to accept the minutes as written. We have a vote, accept the minutes. Public to speak under a non-agenda item. Anyone on the big TV that has anything to say? Ed Kamick, welcome aboard. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Now I can. I couldn't prior, but I can now.
Okay, good.
Okay. Correspondence to be read into the record if there is any, Joe.
I do not have any.
With no correspondence, I guess we could keep moving. This could be a short one, folks. Reports of the commissioner. So Joe, you're up.
I have the report tonight under number 8 actually falls under number 9 and 10. Just have those two items under old business and new business. I guess the only other thing I tell you is I'm still working on the couple of new trees at the end of the 32 runway.
More.
Yeah, there are two that we thought we were across the finish line, but the FAA said, can you check these other data
Oh, did
points?
they flight check it?
I don't know how they came up with it. I don't know if they were using the data they already had, but they said these 2 or 3 points look suspicious to us. Can you check them? I had the surveyor go up a month and a half ago, when there's still a lot of snow, and they put grade stakes. The grade stakes, 2 or 3 of them don't mark anything, but there's one grade stake that's right between the 2 biggest poplar trees up there. So last week I finally could get in there and ribbon them. I've been working with the landowner to make sure.
Didn't we get permission to continue to?
It's changed ownership since
Oh,
the original
of course it
trees.
has. Of course it does.
Yeah,
All
so
right, so you're gonna stay on that?
I'll stay on it till
Give
it's
us
done.
a report at the next meeting as to what the status is of
I
that.
will. Yeah,
So hopefully it doesn't go another 2 years this time.
yes, sir.
Thank you, Joe, for that.
Mhm.
Reports of the airport manager. So Joe, I guess you're up again.
Yeah, I just gave you that
Oh,
report.
that would be it, okay.
Number 7 is for the commission. If you have any individual reports.
Old business. I guess the bylaws and what I'm told from when I spoke to Jim, the selectmen have them
Yes.
and they are reviewing them and they will get back to us with their determination.
So they've done a first reading. They did that a week ago today. They did the first reading. They had input that I provided them. And the only demarcations I made were related to the job description, the title of airport manager, who that person reports to. So I gave them that. They did get some correspondence from the public, which they've read and considered. So they've done a first reading. The board seems to be interested in what I had to say about the position and who it reports to. They haven't changed much else in your draft thus far. They had a couple of things that they talked about, the composition. Should it be 5? Should it be 7? Do they want a couple of alternates? So it's really their first time going through it as a group in the first
So,
reading. They'll bring it back.
Basically, we're on pause for now.
Well, no, it's active. They're actively reviewing it on the 5th.
We are on pause.
You are on pause unless you have some, input that you want to provide to them at their next meeting when they do the second reading. So the second reading is when they have an opportunity, or there is an opportunity for them to finalize it and accept it, unless they have more work to do on it. So they're required to have two readings, and if they can do it 2 readings, then they'll put it into effect, and then you'll get the resulting bylaws back.
So, thank you, Joe. So under old business, I have 3 things to bring up that are, I don't know where you're supposed to add additional business. So after we talk about the runway crack ceiling, can I add 3 things for the topic of conversation? Sure. Okay, So on the crack ceiling, where are we at in the striping?
So the crack ceiling project went out to bid, and we opened bids last week. We had one bid in your packets, is the tally sheet from that. Basically, if you look at the engineer's cost opinion, which is about 2/3 of the way across on the right, they estimated it to be 241,400. 241,400, yeah.
Is that standard for that type of project?
Well, it's itemized, mobilization is there, the two types of repair, one is a fairly basic crack repair when we just go through and fill the cracks, the other
This
one
is only on the runway, not the taxiways.
This is everything at the airport except the private, that's considered private, in front of the hangars. I think it's 50 feet in front of there. And then the part of the apron that's really alligator cracked. I don't have a drawing of that, but it's the primarily, it's the bulk of all of the pavement. Up
Did
there.
Stantec think that number was adequate, was correct, or?
Yeah, so their cost opinion is 241. The one bid we got from Pro Seal was 201, so they're $40,000.
Okay, so someone knows more than we do, so let's assume that Stantec is on track at their 240, and we got it done for 201.
Yes,
Does that include the engineering aspect of it?
no, that's separate, but that's taken care of separately.
Okay,
So where this is at currently, we're using federal, obviously, this is primarily federal funds, and there's a deadline on the BIL funds this week. I believe it's actually tomorrow. So I'm looking for support from the airport commission to proceed with this one crack seal.
you're not gonna run out of time on this, correct?
No,
So based on that, Joe, I guess I would make a recommendation and take a vote on $201,147.50 to be assigned to this bidder, whoever he is,
Pro Seal.
and let's try to get the job done. Do I have a second?
So
I have a second. Jim seconds it. So all those in favor? We have a vote to raise, spend $201,147.50. Any questions from the TV?
No.
Sorry? Any questions from the TV board crowd? Okay, if none, I have two things that I'd like to bring up. And we can throw it out there for just a minute. First of all, first safety issue. One of the airport tie-down systems that were put in the last airport improvement is up dangerously high for a potential prop strike. And the hot top around it has potential of FOD damage for somebody driving by. And it is in a vulnerable place. So prior to the crack sealing guy coming in that might want to seal that after somebody sets it back down, we have a potential liability up there with at least one of our tie downs. I looked at it Friday. Has anybody else seen it? I don't know if anybody's listening over there, but anyway, there is.
I've seen it. I know.
Okay, there is one dangerous place up there. Okay. The second item on my list would be, we should probably have another discussion with the people that have made a recommendation or suggestion that they might want a hangar. And maybe we should try to figure out whether we're gonna do that with AIP money and rent it, or are these applicants gonna do it with their money? Are we gonna do another box hangar, or they wanna do another 5, 6, 8, 10 pack? And maybe those folks could meet us at one of the meetings. And how many applicants do we have, and is it cost effective? And does somebody want to figure out what it would cost? Joe, is that reasonable?
Would you like me to look into what that would cost?
I
Do you want to have a workshop on it with
I
the
think
interested
you
folks?
don't think you need to. I think somebody needs to be assigned to know a builder that would know how much, if you duplicated that current 10 pack, what would it cost in today's dollars? Just to give you an idea, correct? Is it 5 million or is it 1.5 million?
I don't even, well, right now there's a project going on in Laconia. They're asking $185,000 per hangar.
And they're building a 10 pack, so it's $2 million project.
They're building, I think, 2 8-packs.
So I'm not able to do that math. 16 into how much?
They're
So
185,000
180
each.
times 16, call it 2 that's $5 million, yes.
I know for sure. yeah.
180 times 16,
I got it. 185
times 16,
times 16. 2.93 million.
what did I just say?
Oh, what is it?
I know it was a lot. 2.3 million,
No, 3 million.
$3 million, so. And how many square feet is that?
Those are 45-foot doors.
No, but how many square feet is that building to building, just to give us the mathematics?
Well, let's presume a 10-pack, because I think that's probably where we're gonna be, right? So let's,
10
if we,
45s is 450 feet long,
that's a
times,
1 point, okay, yeah, so 1045s,
plus what, 70 wide, is it?
but it'd be 5 45s, because 5 on each side, so 5 times 45 is 225 times a depth of about what,
I want to say
60?
70, but I could be wrong.
70, could be 70.
I could be wrong.
Is 15,750
Square feet,
square feet. 15,750.
15,000, but yeah, but I can't do it based on what Jim's number was, because I don't know. I can't do this. I don't know what the square footage is supposed to be. I was trying to figure out what their square price was.
Oh,
I don't
so
know
divide
the
that by 10. Is a 1,575 square foot unit each. Is that what?
$200 a square foot, then, at $3 million. That's less than I would have thought, but $200 a square foot is what you're roughly saying.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we were talking about last year too, so that
Or
kind of
whatever.
jives.
I mean, I think we should find out from the 4 or 5 applicants if that's in the budget, or how else could we maybe build a less expensive municipal building and rent space?
Hey, could I make a comment?
By all means.
I'd love to come to the next meeting and sit down and discuss with investigating federal funds to build these hangars, and the town retains them, state and federal, and then you rent them. You could get possibly a great rate of return on the investment. It's going to be kind of hard finding pilots with a $150,000 airplane to spend $185,000 on a hangar, but they gladly pay $400 or $500 a month in rent. I've read and I know that federal and state money is around to build hangars as part of the aviation infrastructure. And it just seems to me if the town could get into, have these hangars built and they're only putting in maybe 5-10% of the budget, they'd have a great rate of return on their investment. I'm sure you all have thought of that, but
When we had our on-site meeting last fall, we talked about different options.
So I didn't call in the last meeting. I'd welcome an opportunity to be at a meeting and talk about that, because I think there'd be a lot of interest and it'd be good for the town as well. That's my opinion.
Based on this agenda that we have in front of us today, there's no reason why the next meeting could not have spend some time on a hangar conversation. And maybe John and anybody from the public could reach out and get an estimated square footage cost of today's construction. I mean, anybody's welcome to research it themselves. I mean, and then find out whether we're more expensive, affordable to go box or go package or go, you know what I mean? Go conventional or multiple. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the box would probably be cheaper, but then you get in the issue of who's going to move planes and manage it. I think individual T hangars would most likely rent better and be more favorable than one large box, unless you had a fixed space operator who was there 7 days a week and, or like a concierge service where they move you in, move you out, fuel you, and you just pay.
I'm more supportive of T hangars also, as long as we move them out far enough, as we spoke when we had an on-site meeting up there last fall, so that there could be at least one more double wide FBO if necessary beyond Leeson's hangar. So the next set should go out about 200 feet from what we talked about when we were up there. In the event that we ever did have a potential person to build a fixed space operator building up there, even if the feds built it, it ought to be in the middle of the universe and not way out on the end. Don't you agree?
Oh, I definitely agree. The box hangers ought to be clustered and then the T hangers shoved out on the ends. That's what most airports do.
Correct, correct. So we ought to leave room for one more large, double-sized box hanger, and then whatever we want to do to the northwest is fine. Anyway, so thank you for that. So let's assign some time to the next meeting to discuss hangers. And anybody that wants to bring a square footage price and or design to the table, we would entertain looking at it. So,
Sounds good.
agreed. Thank you, folks. One more thing.
Thank you.
Joe, I have one more question before we move down quick on this one. And it's been bothering me a little bit. Is with all that's going on in the municipal budgeting right now, is this the right year to ask for another $15,000 for an airport manager?
So the budget, I guess I can update you on that. The Board of Selectmen put in right around $8,300, I think, for airport manager in this year's budget.
So we recommended 15, they put in 83.
Yes, there was some discussion with the
And when would we have known that as an airport committee? That the selectmen didn't approve the $50,000 request? And not, maybe I was told that and I forgot. I didn't realize the selectmen had amended the request. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, anyway, so they changed it to 8,300
correct.
and they feel that it's, would that be a stipend or is it gonna be?
Yeah, it's gonna remain the same. It's a stipend. And I'll remain in the position until.
I was just concerned that everybody's
That forward.
screaming about a large budget. And we already have a stipend for the airport manager, correct?
Yes,
Previous to this, 8,300
correct.
was 3,500 or something.
4,100, I think.
Oh, okay, but and if we could drop the whole thing, I just thought with what I've heard on the street about increased rates, maybe this wasn't the right year to ask for it.
So if I can back up in the process a little bit, I believe I did come to the airport commission. We talked about.
And I was not here at the last meeting, so you could
It
have.
wasn't at the last meeting. It was when the budget, I don't even think it had been to the board and the budget committee yet. You may have voiced concerns about it in that meeting. I don't remember exactly whether you did or not, but somewhere along the line, I did hear your concern, whether it was from you directly.
Not for me, no, it's the first time I've mentioned it, but
Whether it was directly or secondhand, I did hear it. It went to the board. After that, it was unveiled to you, and then the budget committee talked about it with the board. Budget committee had a very similar outlook on it that you do. And that was part of the rationale to kind of breaking it down.
now, was there anything else in our budget that they disagreed with? As far as you know?
No, I think that was really the only item. Yeah.
And do we still have plenty of urea up there for another, if we ever have another horrible ice storm? That'd be a question for Buzz.
I can ask him. I don't remember seeing much up there when I was there last time. That's something we put on the next agenda, and I get your thoughts on that. Whether you.
Well, I don't know, but we do need some type of ice removal product when it's most difficult to buy it in November if he doesn't have enough for a couple of applications. We've been lucky the last couple of years because the wind has blown. We haven't had the 5 inches of ice up there the last couple of years, but not being prepared for it is not a good idea.
Okay.
Jim,
Mm,
and buying that stuff in November is not the right time of year to buy it.
true.
Okay, anything else?
Can I just say one more thing about
Certainly.
the airport commissioner, not commissioner,
Manager.
manager? I still think that, for us to get over the hump with this whole, idea of having more hangars and taking care of the airport properly, I think it still would be at least worth $4 extra thousand to have someone that's a manager that could help guide us forward. I still think we, you know what I'm saying? That's my feeling.
I don't disagree. I was just concerned about what I've heard on the street about increases this year, which was not pretty.
Right, I know.
And I'm sensitive to what you're saying, and I would very much like it to be, as I've said publicly a dozen times, someone else. The concerns I've heard from the board and the budget committee were that it needs to be somebody that understands the financial part of it, the grant part, the construction portion of it that we just talked about.
Project timelines.
Yeah, those items. I think this is where the airport commission shines. So you folks have the background and the experience in aviation where you can help a layperson in terms of, being a pilot. I'm not a pilot. I don't know anything about, well, what I know I've learned from you. right? So this is where you shine. This is what I've said years ago. This is why I would need you. This is why any airport manager would need your expertise. But to Jim's point, I agree. But to Larry's point, there were other folks that felt
Sure.
very much like you do, like this isn't the year for it.
Right.
So that's where the compromise was made. And just to elaborate a little bit more, I'm willing to do it. In fact, now is written into my contract that there'll be a certain percentage of my salary, and that's where that number came from. But I've told the board and I've told anybody, and I'll say it again publicly, I would like to find someone that is qualified and interested in doing it and help share with them what I know. And I don't mind ultimately being responsible for signing, the financial stuff, because that seems to be the concern for the elected folks. We want to make sure that we've got that final authority to keep an eye on finances. So I think it's going to be kind of a slow turning, but I think we're headed in the right direction.
Can I ask one more question about Fine Line? Is someone gonna be here from Stantec to verify the procedure, the NOTAMs to shut the runway down and to expedite the
Yes.
job they do?
Yeah, they intend to have an on-site inspector.
And they'll be exiting the runway and whatever,
Yes, yeah, that's part of the spec, yes.
and no damn it closed for a brief time.
Yeah, it should be fairly limited. The runway's not the worst of the cracks. It's the areas off the runway. But yes, they will need to be closed, and they're aware of the signage that they need to put up. It was discussed in the pre-bid. It's in the bid.
No, just as long as they don't make a 4-week project.
I think we're shooting for like 2 weeks, and it'll be when the weather's warm, July-ish probably. Right now, we just have to obligate the funds before we lose them. So that's the push,
I
right?
didn't mean to bring it back up again. I just hate that. Okay, thank you for all that, Joe. Any announcements? I keep getting asked about a fly-in and I don't want to manage it. I know Rebecca did one for years, did several of them. I keep getting that request about another, why are we not doing another fly-in? But nobody wants to raise their hand to quit. So,
Yeah, I'm not laughing, but
Here's the hand. So I had talked to a few people, and I don't mind coordinating this. I am not, by the way, rest in peace, did you know Rob Holland was, he died in a fatal
Yeah, I know
accident.
that.
Yeah, so he was the guy that did our performance here before. So I don't mind coordinating an event. I don't think it should be a fly-in because I don't want to do all the air boss and all that sort of a thing, but I think a PR style event would be something of interest. Something that might have, put our airplanes out on static display. If you got a car, bring it by. I talked to Chief Bacon. He was interested in maybe bringing by some of the fire trucks for, a little bit.
So if you were going to do that.
Right.
Or initiate to the next meeting, the first request would be that you go to the chamber and find that it doesn't conflict with something else going on that day. You wouldn't want it to happen on a logging museum day or
It was
a
suggested.
volunteering day.
It was suggested to me by someone on the select board that a good time to do it would probably be the weekend of the Shriners Parade.
What I'm just saying, as long as it corresponds well and doesn't conflict with.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's certainly something that could be brought to the board. If you really want to raise your hand into that arena, then bring it to the board with some ideas.
Okay, well,
I
let me,
believe we have a couple of dollars set aside for
all right, so I
that.
probably,
I don't know how much, but
probably won't need any. I don't see.
I think
the
there's
need.
$700 set aside for an event like that.
I think it's closer to 14,000, but
Oh, okay.
I'd have to double check that.
100,000.
I want to double check that.
Okay.
Don't quote me on it.
Okay, so the next meeting date would be June 30th.
Can we back up a little first,
Sure.
Larry? We zoomed right past the airport commission bylaws.
No, it's in some hands of the selectmen and their.
I know, but I have some details for you.
Okay, sorry.
So, with regards to that, I watched the Board of Selectmen meeting from last week.
Okay.
And one of the things that you have mentioned to me, Larry, is that you feel as though this commission doesn't have really much say-so in a lot of matters. And I agree with you. I think it probably should have a little bit more involvement in some of the things that happen around the airport. So I'm thinking that some hierarchy, this is our chance to make some headway with the bylaws. Some hierarchy should be placed into the bylaws. One of the things that Mark Beauregard and Joe Roach had done in the rough draft that was read during the Board of Select meeting was they struck out any reference to the airport manager within the Airport Commission bylaws. So things that were in there were that
I repeat that again, I'm missing it.
okay,
Do you understand what he interpreted that to be? You struck the airport manager from the bylaws?
there's no mention of the airport manager within our bylaws. So what that means is the entire section 5, which reads that the airport manager shall be nominated by a majority vote of the Airport Commission, appointed by the Board of Select. The airport manager is responsible for day-to-day operations, strategic planning, regulatory compliance, infrastructure development, reports to the Airport Commission, marketing, customer service, public relations. And this one is of interest. It says, and this is another one of the struck items, the airport manager reports directly to the Airport Commission and ultimately to Rangeley town officials, which would be the town manager and Board of Select. I'm not
That
saying
is how it goes now. We make
that
a-
is what we proposed, and that's what we agreed upon at our last meeting. Now, I'm not saying that we are more powerful than the Board of Selectmen. I'm not saying that we are more powerful than the town manager. What I'm saying is that our influence, our word, our guidance, which is why we're here, is something that needs to be taken into consideration with a heavier weight.
Okay, let me put into my 2 cents worth on that topic.
Okay.
To my knowledge, this is unusual that maybe Joe would be the airport manager.
It is
He is the town manager as well as the airport manager.
true.
But in a perfect world, if there were 2 people, or Joe was reporting to someone, as he just said.
Yep.
Or someone's reporting to Joe. As I understand the way our task works, we make a recommendation to the airport manager. The airport manager takes that recommendation to the town manager, he takes it to the selectmen, and they do what they want with it.
Well, I think that should be in the bylaws then, because that's
Sure.
not in the bylaws.
Oh, it's not written that way, because that's the way I interpret
It is my interpretation as well. However, there's no verbiage like that in the bylaws. And maybe if you don't like the way we've said it here, then maybe more discussion needs to be drawn out and actually put
it.
into
And
writing.
maybe so, because maybe I didn't interpret the last paragraph properly. That's certainly the way I would interpret that it should be, the way I just said.
Yeah, the commission, in my view, would be advisory to the airport manager.
Correct.
One of the things that was also on that agenda the other night was an airport manager job description, which the board, because they are currently supervising the airport manager, because it's me. Now, I'm their only employee, right? The town manager is the board of selectmen's only employee.
Right, but someday you may not be the.
Exactly.
You would
And the
be- If
job
I
description-
were the airport manager for the $8,300, if I elected to take the position or lobby for it, I would report to you from this meeting.
Correct. And the job description reflects that right on the top of the page. It said, if the town manager is the airport manager, reports to the board of selectmen. If the town manager is not the airport manager, that person reports to the town manager. A lot of those items that John read that were struck because they fit into the job description. So they are in place now currently. In fact, the board
As long as they,
approved that job description the other night. So everything, most things that are on that list, if not all of them, are in place.
well, it will be coming back to us one more time anyway, we can see that. Right?
Yeah.
And if there's something that sticks out, we can fix it, right, John?
Well, it doesn't quite exactly say it the way Joe says.
Maybe it does on his airport manager's application.
It's right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the wording isn't identical, but the concepts are
okay.
mostly in there, if not all in there. I don't remember every word of it.
I do. It says, the purpose is an employee in this position performs this work as an assignment in addition to other duties with the town. An employee in this position works under the general supervision of the town manager. Duties include ensuring that the airport commission is kept informed and to perform clerical administrative duties as required. So the flow is not bilateral, it's one way. As the purpose shows, it says duties are to ensure that the airport commission is kept informed. It's not the other way where the airport commission does the informing.
Right, the airport commission is supposed to be advisory. So if I ask you, what do you think about this?
Right, or if we have a
Crack seal
record,
job.
or if we have a recommendation like mine about this FOD damage, potential damage up there today, the selectmen would not even see that. Nor do
It's
they
totally
ever run through
operational,
here.
yeah, they don't even need to know about
Correct, nor would they know the definition of it.
And nowhere in it, nowhere in this, or if this is struck from our bylaws, is it in writing that the airport manager is to take any of our word on anything.
That's correct. I think the bylaws as presented by the commission omitted that original sentiment from the original bylaws that said you're advisory to the town manager. I think that was left out. So if that were put in there, that would solve the issue, I think.
If it was the way I described it or something close to that. We have nothing more than an advisory board making recommendations to the airport manager, which in turn takes it to the selectmen. And then we should be informed by the airport manager what the selectmen's decision was.
Right, and so just to clarify, and this is congruent with all the other departments, if it's operational, it's unlikely the selectmen are even gonna hear about it. It's not because they can't know or they shouldn't know. They don't really deal with operations except other than an update. If it's policy or budget, that's when it goes to the board of selectmen. If I need authority to spend money, if I need, policy questions about, who can use the building at the airport, whatever it is, budget and policy go to the board, operations go to the town.
Have they approved the final end?
Timing's not gonna work out on that, so they're gonna get that on the 5th.
So they're gonna get it after you've approved it, so
Yes.
we've already broken up the rule.
It's not breaking a rule. That's what we're gonna have to do to make the deadline in this particular case.
And typically they're okay with that. Can you inform them with an email or whatever that timing is running out? So it doesn't backfire, or they shut it off?
I don't think it's gonna backfire. They are at this point familiar with the fact that we had engineering done on it. They've approved payment for the engineering portion of it from.
Okay, as long as it doesn't backfire.
They've actually seen the engineering documents. They had those in their packets, so they're familiar with those. Typically, would like to get it to them before signing it, but in this case, it's gotta be signed.
Okay, well, can we get, so John, should we, before the final notary public of the new bylaws is assigned, we should read that last paragraph as the selectmen see it?
There is another second reading the Board of Selectmen is going to do. As far as what happens after that, I'm not sure of, but I guess what I want to add to that before I give it a yes or a no is what I'm going to suggest is put in your language, what you just said, which I think we all pretty much agree on,
I don't think it's ever changed in the life I've been on the board.
but it should be in writing someplace.
Okay.
So while you were talking to Joe, I wrote down advisory board reports. The advisory board advises the airport manager who reports to the town manager, who reports to the Board of Select. I'm not looking to circumvent any hierarchy. I'm looking to establish it.
No, so if that is the chain of commands,
Yes.
that is
Yes.
the chain of command.
So the chain of command, the COC, maybe what I'll do is I'll change section 5 to reflect that. Maybe I could work with Tracy on this because I know she probably has this already scanned, right?
Yeah, so if you.
Now, the other thing, at the end of the project, it should also go in reverse. In other words, once the selectmen have approved or amended it, the airport committee should be identified, should be notified.
Sure.
If they have amended our request
Yeah.
or denied it. Or for that matter, approved it.
Yeah.
So,
Status.
Sure.
Right.
And I would endeavor to do that. Sometimes a couple months ago before meetings, I may not remember every detail of it, but I would endeavor to keep you informed also.
So John, you want to work with Tracy to pencil that in, so the selectmen have an opportunity to look at it. I'm sure they're going to agree, if it's not already in ironclad, that I didn't read it in there because I I just felt that's the way it already was. Always so.
It goes unspoken, but like we all agree, it should be in writing.
Would the commission make a motion to send the advisory language, the fact that the commission is an advisory commission language to me or Tracy to submit to the board next?
By all means. So do you want me to say it again? Would you folks take a motion from myself? That let it be known that the airport committee is nothing more than a advisory board that in fact reports to the airport manager. He in fact would report to the town manager, assuming they were of two different titles, who would in fact notify the selectmen of what is going on. And in turn, the selectmen would return the favor and notify us how it went. So
Carries the wishes, how about that? Relays the wishes.
I'm not a lawyer, I'm just telling you.
All right,
Communicates.
communicates, yes.
Because it ought to happen both ways. We should be informed if they wanna, if the selectmen decide that you're gonna take out a turn and you're gonna do the taxiway without us, you know, you're gonna take something out of date, we all show the same thing should come to us.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise.
I agree.
Okay,
We shouldn't read it for the first time in the news.
so I like that, communicates the wishes of the advisory board this way and then comes back and returns.
Because that's what we have for.
Tracy and I can work on that, I'm sure. Now, additionally, there's some more things that you should know about.
So before you keep going though, should I make
I got a motion.
that was a motion, so I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second, and I'll take a vote on that we are gonna change the language to the advisory board, or make sure that it's correct, let's put it down.
Clarify.
Clarify.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, we have a vote.
Good, I like it. The other things that you need to be aware of is that the Board of Select agrees with the 5-member board. But one thing that they were discussing is the 2 alternates. They want to keep 2 alternates because there is one other board, I forget which it is, that has alternates on it, but nowhere in our bylaws does it say the role of the alternate.
We've always had an alternate, and all it did was the missing applicant would notify them that they couldn't be the missing chair, correct? I think I used to call Harold and say, Harold, I can't get in, and he would show up in my place.
Yeah, but since I've been doing this, which is like 7 or 8 years.
We haven't had one, well, we didn't have any, we really haven't had room for a board.
Right, we either didn't have one or we didn't use it, so when we redid the bylaws, we didn't think it was necessary.
So the Board of Select meeting that I watched from this past Monday didn't include that as one of the options. My takeaway was that if someone was removed from the board, which by the way, Chairman Janassi said that they're going to leave it up to us if we need to remove somebody from the board. And if somebody is removed from the board, that position would be backfilled with an alternate. He said that, at least that was my takeaway, that that was the role of the alternate.
An alternate would be necessary if the board felt that they might want to evict a member.
If they were removed or otherwise absent. So that
Or-
was
or
my
if they-
takeaway.
The bylaws already say absent, but if you're 3 in a row without permission, you're done.
And that's where the role of
4 in a row, whatever.
then that's where the role of the alternate comes in, is that alternate then backfills that. It's not for a daily meeting. It's not for
That's
monthly.
never been a problem with this board, because most of the time the deficient person has an excuse and it's a pass. Correct? You get a pass if you,
If you're excused, yeah.
If you're
that's-
excused,
correct.
The clock isn't running.
Correct, correct. so,
So which is it, or is it both? If someone's not present for a meeting, can an alternate fill in the position, or if somebody?
I thought they could if you didn't have a quorum.
Yeah, that's typically how alternates work. Then the other alternate item is, the way it's currently written, is if somebody does resign by absence, basically, if they're absent 4 meetings without an excuse, the way it currently is written, the commission has the authority to recommend which alternate you would like to have fill that seat after you notify that person. You've resigned. So, but that still has to be ratified by the board or blessed by the.
While you're speaking of that, I haven't applied yet to run, nor have I decided I want to, but I think I'm up June 30th. We're not gonna have a quorum if for some reason I don't run or don't get voted in.
That was another question of mine that I wanted to talk about after this. Can we put that one on the back burner while we finish this? And I'll make a
No,
motion,
no,
but
I'm
I
just
think it,
making note of that.
yes, it's a very viable one and a concern of mine. So could I make a motion? Oh, go ahead.
There's one thing about we're talking about the alternate. One thing now, if we're gonna have the 3 residents and the 2 non-residents as a max, and that would affect the alternates too then, because if you have an alternate
The
that,
alternate should be resident.
is that, well, I'm just saying, it could be an issue.
I
So
think-
it's like if you have an alternate and say
Because if he wasn't, you could mix people in.
right, that's what I'm saying. Just that's an issue too, so
Okay,
with an alternate.
so with the rewording of the bylaws to include the role of the alternate will backfill a position if resignation or absence from a meeting occurs. And the alternate,
Must be a resident.
but then how,
Has to be, because if not, you can break your 60-40 rule. You could conceivably break your 60-40 rule.
you could,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You can load your 60 rule, but you can't load your 40 rule.
What I'm saying
Right,
is,
Joe,
we
you
haven't
follow?
had an alternate for 8 years
Yeah.
that I've been here.
I
and
get
It's
it.
never been an issue. I don't know. Do other boards have alternates?
Some of them do, some of them.
No.
The planning board is one where, where they have alternates, and it's kind of critical that they do, because, they're issuing.
They gotta be on time, right?
Right, yeah, people are spending big money and waiting on their permits, so if you can't backfill a couple of absences, then you stall another few weeks.
is an
Okay.
alternate an heir apparent to the next empty seat?
No, not necessarily.
Depends on if it's in the ordinance or not, I don't believe that it is in the planning board ordinance, but I'd have to check.
How about this, you have 2 alternates, and one is a resident, one's a non-resident. And then if whoever gets kicked out or whoever leaves the board.
Whoever you
if it's
divorce.
the resident,
No, this is if you divorce someone or if they
if you
quit,
divorce someone.
or if they quit, or both.
Well, you'd have 2 alternates, and one would be a resident, one would be a non-resident, so that if somebody on the board leaves for whatever reason, if a resident leaves, then the
Right.
resident alternate would come in. And if it was a non-resident, then the non-resident alternate.
That's the only way that I could recommend it at whatever you alternate. Because we couldn't I don't think we should put a stacked board non-resident. We shouldn't put ourselves into a potential stacked board from too many non-residents. Because then we defeated the purpose of keeping it rigidly controlled.
Right. Does that make sense?
Those to me, it's you're.
I'd second that.
So you're proposing 2 alternates.
2 alternates, 1 non-resident, 1 resident.
So you can say it or I'll say it. So the motion would be if the selectmen request an alternate. We suggest 2.
1 resident, 1 non-resident.
If the selectmen request an alternate, we should request 2.
Well, it'd be the,
Well, they're reading the bylaws right now. You're saying it's already in there that we may or may not need an alternate.
but Joe said that the alternates aren't necessarily heir apparents to the position.
Right, the way they're currently written, again, I don't have that current version in front of me, but from what I recall, if somebody resigns by unexcused absences,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mark probably does remember it, but if they do that, they've effectively resigned. And then the commission decides which alternate you're going to recommend to the Board of Selectmen to fill that seat.
That
Or-
doesn't-
That's the way it's written currently.
But it doesn't have to be an alternate, it could be another candidate, is what I'm saying. They're not necessarily the heir apparent.
I believe it says alternate.
You gotta draw from the alternate pool.
The way it's written currently, that's my understanding. Mark may know.
Mark, what do you think of that alternate business?
Go ahead, Mark.
May I speak?
That's what I asked you to, yes.
Yeah, okay, on the residency thing, it says up to 2 non-resident taxpayers. In the suggestions that I made, I thought it should be up to 2 if it was a 7-member board, and then only 1 if it was a 5-member, because with a 5-member board, 3 people make a quorum. So you could have 2 non-residents and 1 resident sitting on the board. And if the 2 non-residents could have the majority vote. And and the same thing goes forward with the alternate thing. If you have 2 non-residents and you have another non-resident alternate, you could have 3, a majority of non-residents in a couple different situations with the controlling vote. And
I think the bylaw says you can't have more than 60-40. You couldn't. lower the
that's
board.
right, it does say that. Yeah,
I thought so.
I forgot about that with the, so that would take care of the alternate part, appointing a non-resident alternate if you already had 2 non-resident. members. Okay.
I believe, agree with the non-resident because of potential talent. That's the only reason, is talent. That potentially, like Jim here, you have a very talented individual.
I'm a resident.
This all came about.
I know.
That's all I'm saying, is talent. I'm not a big supporter of non-residents on these boards, except in this particular case, it's about talent.
Yeah, not that people with talent aren't allowed to speak under the public portion of it anyway, but that's a separate,
Typically, they do not, Mark.
right. But anyway, I just wanted to weigh in with what I had proposed. Thank you.
I think you're correct that the 60-40 rule would apply to what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think you can read it again, but I don't have a copy in front of me.
you're right.
So, did we vote on everything we needed to vote on, or recommendations for the thing that we need?
I want to make sure that I have this correct. If you'll make sure that I have it correct before
Well,
we.
Jim's recommending that we have 2 alternates if we're gonna have any at all. One is pro and one is con on the resident, non-resident.
Yeah, so I make a motion
If we're
that
going to do that.
if we need to have alternates, we
So-
have 2, one would be a resident, one would be a non-resident. So then that,
So that's where I said, and I think we didn't get voted on it. But I recommend it, if the selectmen feel that we need 2 alternates, one should be a resident and the other one should be a non-resident. If they recommend that we have alternates.
and then you should have in there too that, the commission member that leaves, the alternate would fill the same. How do you say
No, he
that?
goes to the other command. You're the vice president, I'm the president. So you would come in my position.
I'm talking about the resident versus non-resident thing.
Well, I don't think it matters as long as you keep,
As long as we keep the 60-40.
as long as it remains 60-40, correct? I mean, your non-resident could be the president of this group, or whatever they call me, chairman. As long as the ratio stays the same.
Right, so how do you write that?
Okay, I'll make a motion, and if you agree with it, you can second it.
Okay.
All right, here's how we'll go.
We have one on the floor, so you wanna take that away, the one that I just said?
I'll take mine away.
Okay.
Okay, all right. The role of the alternate occurs with a resignation or an absence. The position will be backfilled by a alternate of equal status or something to that effect.
Okay.
I think I've got the concept, but I don't have the verbiage.
The non-resident would take the non-resident's position. The resident can take the other position,
We're in agreement.
because it could be 70-30, we don't mind that. We just do not want to exceed the 60-40 rule,
It doesn't change the structure, it doesn't change the makeup of the board.
correct, Jim? You can end up with all residents, it's fine.
Sure, right.
You don't have to have any non-residents.
Okay, that's the motion.
So the motion is on the floor, and I couldn't possibly remember what you just said, so I'll ask you to read it.
Okay. The role of the alternate is that we have two alternates. One of them is a resident, and the other is non-resident. They are triggered by either resignation or absence, and the vacancy will be filled with the same type of alternate so that it does not change the makeup of the board.
Well, that's not quite true, because you could take another resident to fill a non-resident position.
Good.
So that is quite true.
Doesn't change the makeup of the board, so I'll scratch that.
Oh,
I do.
Not to exceed the 60-40 rule.
okay, fine, as long as, I don't have no problem with 70-30, but we cannot exceed not the resident high side, Joe. So we'll take a motion for what John is recommending, and Tracy can dial it in as long as it kind of reads the way we're talking.
Yes,
There's no way that the non-resident can stack the board.
that's a motion.
So all those in favor of such?
Who seconded it?
I'll second it. I'll
Okay.
second it. Yeah.
What I'll do too is I'll send this out after I'm done.
Yeah, if you would, let us, can we look at it before it goes to the board?
We'll send it, their next meeting. We are not having one on Memorial Day weekend, which maybe we could have one at a different.
Well, maybe we should move that hangar meeting something before Memorial Day, if some of these people, if we could ask those, Joe, to reach out to the applicants and maybe have a hangar meeting anytime, I'm fine at after 5 or after 4 at the airport.
Yeah.
So it doesn't tie up this room on any day that somebody decides.
Okay,
Airport meeting with potential hangars, people on or before Memorial Day, unofficial airport meeting.
Well, it's gotta be
it's all
official.
official.
I'm on vacation right before and right around Memorial Day, so I'd have to get dates that I can do. I can do
Well, I don't know
it
if it happened in the next 2.5 weeks.
I
So
can do it the next couple of weeks.
if anybody wants to do that, fine, to get a jump start on potential hangars, because months are important up here. So we have a motion on the floor, we have a second. I am asking for a vote on John's suggestion that we will in fact get a chance to see the verbiage through Joe, and we will discuss that approval or disapproval with Joe. Joe is gonna email us John's recommendation.
So if this is going, your recommendations are gonna go to the Board of Selectmen Monday the 5th, which is a week from today. They'll get them in their packets Thursday afternoon.
You just send it to us like the next.
Yeah,
couple
can you
days?
just send it to us so we can say yes or no?
I'll be here tomorrow. Does Tracy have time to meet with me?
She could probably make some time, yeah.
I can do it tomorrow and we can expedite this.
Yeah,
All right, so-
I would encourage you to expedite it, just
Yeah.
because the board is,
So I would
they're ready to move on it.
So I would take a motion for the article that John has spoken. All those in favor say aye.
One more thing before we go on is which might be what you were just going to say, is your term renewal and language therein. How a existing member gets renewed.
Based on this board. So on the meeting of June 30th is when I think my term expires.
I'd have to double check, Larry, I don't know.
I believe it's either late June, I don't know. But anyway, I believe that this board, oh, wait a minute, probably has to go to the select,
It does.
even if it's existing. I don't know.
Selectmen do reappointments, they do appointments, reappointments. Again, what I recall from the existing bylaws is the only time the commission is involved in membership is when
We have
somebody,
new applicants.
somebody resigns, either by absence or otherwise, I think it's especially by absence. You decide which alternate you want to recommend to the board. But the Board of Selectmen determines
So-
who goes on the commission.
Before I decide to resign or not, I guess I would tell you today, I'll stay on the board through June 30th and beyond. Make a decision in July, it makes it easy because we're running out of time. We're not gonna have a meeting between now and the time that I expire.
Well, you'll have one in a couple of weeks.
If you're gonna have an official meeting, it's not gonna be an official meeting.
It has to be an official.
Okay,
meeting.
so-
If there's more than two of you
Okay,
there.
I just would hate to think that we're gonna run into a problem on the striping job or something because we don't have a quorum.
Would you like, application paperwork?
Might as well, at least for the immediate, right? Go ahead. Yes, Mark.
Right, Mark?
Yeah, Larry, I think to address your situation, the safest thing to do would be is to fill out application, let the Board of Selectmen appoint you, and then if you decide to resign, then that's what you do.
What I just said.
But at least you're reappointed. Yeah,
At least then we're stretching it out to July or August, so it's not a problem.
that's the right procedure. Okay, thanks.
That's what you said. So you want to put that on the agenda for the next meeting to reappropriate me to the selectmen's request? Or do we do that right here, right now today? Do I sit back and ask these people if they want me to lead the charge for the next year?
So in your first meeting typically what we do, the first meeting in July is when they choose leadership.
Yeah, but I'm expired by then, Joe.
May 12th would be 2 weeks from now.
Right.
We can handle it all then.
So if you reapply, I can bring that to the board on May 5th and read it to them Monday.
Okay, I'm just saying, so that we're not left with a,
Assuming that they reappoint you,
no, that's correct, and that's not a problem.
then your commission.
I'll take that risk, but what I'm saying is I don't want to put this board at risk of not having a quorum.
Appreciate that, I'm sure they
Right,
appreciate
you
that.
follow me, Jim?
Yes.
So I'll have Tracy get you the application
Okay.
tomorrow, fill it out, and then we'll get it on the board's.
We'd still have a quorum without Larry because there's still 3 of us.
Yeah, we still have
We'd
Harold.
still have 3 of us.
Well, you would, yeah, if presuming Harold's available, but he's on the EMS, right? You never know where he's gonna be on a Monday night.
You never know. So there'd be Jim and I. So we're getting down to the bare bones of it all. But we get, so you
I'm going to run right now, based on the May 13th meeting. Joe is gonna get it to the Board of Selectmen, and then we will all have a powwow who wants to do what going forward after that. But I can always quit. But I can't not be here for the next 60 days because of the limited amount of people we have. You follow me? Right,
Sure. Right, fill out the papers.
okay. Get Tracy, so based on that, John, are we finally through all that amendments to the bylaws?
I'm satisfied with the bylaws.
Okay, the next meeting date,
There we go.
the next meeting date has been changed to now May 13th, or is that it?
12th is Monday.
12,
12th?
Monday, Tuesday?
Now that is only pending, Joe, that you in fact have enough people interested in hangars that this is worthy of a discussion. Is that,
I think you'll have a couple here tonight that I know are interested. I think if
Okay.
those two show, it's worth having a meeting.
okay, and then how we fund it is to be determined. So if that's the case, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Is that a motion? I'll second it.
That's a motion to adjourn on the floor, and all in favor of adjourning. Productive meeting. Thank you, folks on the TV.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.